All right, today we're going to talk about something, well, something huge. We're talking about time. But forget clocks, forget calendars. We are about to dig into a new theory that could completely change how you think about time, eternity, and everything in between.
So, let's just jump right in with the big question, the one that sits at the heart of all this. When you think of eternity, do you picture some far-off place you get to after? Or, and this is the interesting part, could it be something that's already here, right now, hiding in plain sight? Let's find out.
Now, before we get to the new stuff, we have to understand the old way of thinking. For centuries, philosophy has told us this story about two totally separate, almost warring realities.
And this really lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you've got time. It's what we live in, it's fleeting, it moves in a straight line, and it's finite. Then, over on the other side, you have eternity. It's static, it's infinite, and for us, it's basically unreachable. A totally different plane of existence. And that gap between the two? That's been a source of a whole lot of human anxiety for a very, very long time.
But what if that gap is just an illusion? What if there's a bridge? Well, that's exactly where this radical new idea comes into play. It's called the infinitesimal eternity theory.
So what exactly is the theory of infinitesimal eternity, or TIE for short? Well, it flips the old idea on its head. It suggests that eternity isn't some other place. Instead, it's woven in these tiny, almost immeasurable fragments into every single instant of your life. It's not separate, it's literally part of the now.
And this quote from the source material just nails it. Each moment of life is a manifestation of the eternal that, though finite, contains the essence of the infinite. Just let that sink in for a second. Every finite moment you experience actually holds a tiny spark of the infinite.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. How is that even possible? Well, this brings us to the first major pillar of the theory, and it's a big one. It's the idea that life itself doesn't just experience time, it creates it.
See, according to time isn't this pre-existing river that we're all just floating down. Not at all. Time is something that life actively invents, second by second. Our very existence is this dynamic act of creation, constantly pushing back against this silent, unchanging backdrop of eternity.
And to help us really wrap our heads around this, the theory gives us this beautiful, powerful metaphor. It describes our creation of time as a juggler's game.
Let's break this down. The juggler, that's life. That's you. The spheres that you're tossing up in the air, those are the seconds of your life, every single moment. And what's below? The abyss? That's the non-time of eternity. So the very act of living is this constant, delicate performance, a resistance against letting those moments drop back into the void.
And when you think about it that way, it's pretty profound, right? Every single second that you are alive is a creative act. It's a tiny little rebellion, a spark of existence that refuses to be swallowed up by nothingness. Simply by being here, you are winning.
Okay, so if living is all about creating time, then what about dying? This is where the theory gets really wild. It completely redefines death not as an end, but as an infinite transition. So on the left, we've got the classical view. Death is a hard stop, the end, a total break between our world of time and whatever comes next. But T's view is something else entirely. It sees death as a continuous, unending process. It's what's called an asymptotic process, which basically means a limit that you get closer and closer to, but you never actually reach. So that phrase, asymptotic process, it might sound a little technical, but it's a really cool idea. Think of it like walking towards a wall, but with every step you take, the distance you cover is halved. You'll get infinitely close to that wall, but you'll never actually touch it. That's how Ty sees death. The time you created gets infinitely close to non-time, but never fully dissolves. All right, let's walk through this step by step because this is the core of it. 1, life creates time. We got that. 2, at death, that time doesn't just poof out of existence. It starts to deplete infinitesimally. 3 and 4, it gets closer and closer and closer to that void of eternity. But, and this is the kicker, it never fully arrives. Which leads to number 5, life persists. Not in some grand way, but in this infinitesimal suspension. So, let's pull all these threads together now. Because what this all leads to is a pretty mind-bending paradox about what it means to be you.
Okay, first, the part we all know. Your life is finite. There's a start, there's an end. It happens on a timeline.
But
As T.I. suggests, that's not the whole story, is it? Because every single instant within that finite life contains a little piece of the eternal.
And if both of those things are true, then this has to be true too. You persist, infinitesimally. You don't just disappear. The existence that you created, the time you juggled into being, continues in this incredibly subtle, eternal state. And listen to how the source material puts it, it's just perfect. Human things are not condemned to vanish in death. Rather, they persist in infinitesimal suspension. We're not talking about some grand afterlife here. This is presented as just a basic fact of being, a kind of immortality that isn't loud and obvious, but is quiet, subtle, and real. So where does all this leave us? Well, it leaves us with a very direct, very personal question. If this theory is right, if every single moment is a creative act, a small victory against the void, then how are you going to live this one, right now?